2 years ago here on World of Geekdom, I did a video with Dash Star called Is Disney Ruining Star Wars? And it's actually the biggest video, or I think one of the biggest, maybe the biggest video on World of Geekdom on this channel, because man, was that a story. We both had just got done seeing the Star Wars Episode 8 Last Jedi movie, and we were pretty pissed off about it. Before a lot of these channels became profitable off of shitting on Star Wars, Dash and I, who were lifelong Star Wars fans, feeling very betrayed by what The Last Jedi did to our favorite characters and to us as Star Wars fans, were shitting on that movie. We trashed on Last Jedi before it was cool, okay? Because let me tell you something. During that time, nobody was trashing on Last Jedi. All the critics loved it. All the YouTubers were praising it. Once we stepped in here, and I'm not saying that I'm the reason, but I think people slowly started to kind of realize that this is not this grandiose movie the critics had said. So, it's been 2 years. Now we have The Rise of Skywalker. It's no longer about, is Disney ruining Star Wars? The question here is, did Disney ruin Star Wars? Did the sequel trilogy do irreparable damage to the brand and to the franchise? Let's talk about it. Please welcome back Dash. What's up?
Hey, thanks for having me. And it's funny because now I'm just Dash, not Dash Star, because I gave up on Disney Star Wars, which is probably a good precursor for our chat.
Well, you know what, though? You'll always be Dash Star because you can just take these three movies that Disney put out, 7, 8, and 9, and just erase them from your mental canon and just watch the original trilogy. Because to me, and I said it the other day on a stream I did, to me, there's only 3 Star Wars movies. There's 3 Star Wars movies. Everything else is DLC. That's the way I perceive it. And I think that's the best way to look at it.
I like the prequels for all of the ancillary content that they created. And
I do too, but go ahead.
No, I mean, everybody's got their problems with the prequels. To say that they are above critique or reproach is just silly. And I think that a lot of the nostalgia for the prequels is fueled by the hate of the sequels to the point where it's kind of hysteria level.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. So the one thing I want to talk about briefly is kind of the direction of Disney Star Wars when it came to the sequel trilogy. So no matter which way you want to slice it, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hit you with the real shit on this video. The real shit is this. The Disney vision of Star Wars, and I'm talking about everything they've done, not just the sequel trilogy, Rogue One, Solo, and The Mandalorian. Every single thing that they have done since buying this property for $4 billion has been entirely based on nostalgia for the original trilogy and has been a reaction to the prequels getting shit. The reason why George sold Star Wars, according to many people, again, we don't know for sure, we're not in his head, but many have said it's because of the way he was treated when the prequels came out, because the prequels wound up being such a disaster for him, and he got shit on so much for so many years. I mean, there's a documentary called The People versus George Lucas. I mean, he got a lot of shit, this man did, and I've always, even though I don't like the prequels as much as the original trilogy, I've always respected George for having a vision and for creating these movies and for being an entrepreneur. But he got a lot of shit from people for many, many, many years. So when Disney got the property, their first idea was, okay, we can't do prequel shit. We got to make things look real. We got to use real sets. We got to have better special effects. We can't have everything be CGI. We can't have everything be green screen. So then JJ comes in and does The Force Awakens, which is basically a soft reboot or just, inspired heavily by A New Hope. So all the fans are like, okay, this is Star Wars. We're back to what Star Wars was when we were little kids. Rian Johnson comes around, takes all these mystery boxes, throws them out the window, resolves them in very unusual, unorthodox ways, and Last Jedi happens. And Last Jedi was sort of like a response to Force Awakens being too, a little too derivative. Then we have Rise of Skywalker being a response to Last Jedi. Well, you fucked up my movie, so I'm going to fuck up your movie. And we actually have a lot of symbolism in The Rise of Skywalker that's very meta. We've talked about how Last Jedi has a lot of meta shit in it, besides the political shit, but also like how Last Jedi made Star Wars fans feel guilty about being Star Wars fans. The lightsaber, like the Excalibur, is a junket. Luke Skywalker is a shell of his former self. Leia is, I don't even know what, just a bunch of shit. Like, that movie was just a waste of time, and it was very insulting towards Star Wars fans. But yet, with Rise of Skywalker, he actually has a scene where he rebuilds Kylo Ren's mask, right? That they rebuild the mask, and that to me was meta. It was symbolic of JJ saying, you tore apart my vision, I'm going to rebuild it. But the reality is, it's also derivative of the original trilogy. Same thing with Rogue One. Rogue One is a fanboy dream movie. It's a prequel to The New Hope, playing it safe. And Solo is all based on the Han Solo character. So, and you have Darth Maul making a shoehorned appearance to appeal to the prequel fans. So everything they've done has been about the past and not so much the future, which is actually why I think Rian Johnson had a point in what he said, but the execution was bad. So, looking back, bro, what could they have done differently in your opinion?
I think if I could nail it down to one thing, it would be writing and story. George Lucas is a phenomenal world builder. He understands the hero's journey and the meta, and he ties together a universe beautifully. However, his weakness in the original trilogy was shown to be, number one, editing, which he had, I forget her name, but she kind of made A New Hope work, and I saw a lot of the scenes disjointed as they were, and the overarching picture of, okay, George Lucas is amazing at XYZ, but he's not a great editor. The second part was he wasn't a great writer, and obviously when he came into the prequels and he wrote them himself and didn't have somebody take over, that was very telling. And I think that the same thing has happened for Disney, that their execution has just been poor and has started with poor writing decisions.
Okay. I feel like I agree with you, but I think the problem is, now we're going to keep it very fair here. And this is the truth. Kathleen Kennedy is a wonderful movie producer. Like, she's made classic movies with guys like Spielberg and even Lucas and other people. She has a good resume, point blank. As far as her knowledge of Star Wars, I don't know how much knowledge she actually has. With guys like Kevin Feige, he loves Marvel. He knows Marvel at the back of his hand. He knows the comics. He knows the source material. We don't know if Kathy Kennedy really is aware of that kind of stuff. Now, Dave Filoni absolutely knows Star Wars. The problem is that he doesn't have the producer credibility that Kathy Kennedy has. Could Dave Filoni have been a better leader? I think story-wise, absolutely. And Mandalorian is showing it, because Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have been fantastic on there. Plus what Dave Filoni did with the TV shows, the Rebels and the Clone Wars shows. But Kathy Kennedy being the leader of this boat is just not working. It's just, it didn't work. And so what she did was she hired Abrams, who had the same kind of idea that she did for this reboot, The Force Awakens, but then she gave complete creative control to Rian Johnson, and everything he did in that movie was counterintuitive to what Star Wars fans wanted, but for some reason Kathy Kennedy was okay with it. I find it very weird, Dash, that she fired Lord and Miller, who are very talented filmmakers, from Solo, right? But yet she let Rian Johnson do whatever the hell he wanted. I feel like the only thing that makes any sense is that Rian Johnson agreed with her politically and put a bunch of that propaganda in his movie. That's the
100%.
only thing that makes any sense.
What a lot of the rumors, and take them with a grain of salt, however,
again, we don't really know these people. Let's keep it
the evidence
fair here.
Matches up. Is that Kathleen Kennedy stepped into this role as a wonderful producer. I'm all about powerful women, and there seemed to be a little bit of a vacuum in Hollywood. Who cares? At the end of the day, I don't care about sexes. It's if you have the merit, the quality, and if you've got the chops to take on a job. If you're the best, fantastic. And so Kathleen Kennedy stepped into, some would call, an unenviable position of having to really fill out the shoes of George Lucas and expand the universe beyond what they had. But reportedly, she wasn't that knowledgeable of Star Wars, and that can be attributed to her saying that we don't have much of source material when talking about padding the universe. Which my favorite,
so much.
My favorite part of Star Wars is Legends. So I mean, that was insane to say. But number two, if you look at the head of story group, it wasn't actually Pablo Hidalgo. It's not Matt Martin. It's not Chi. It is, I forget her name, but she is an associate personal friend of Kathleen Kennedy, and she only has a couple of writing credits under her belt. Now, supposedly, due to nepotism, friendship, Kathleen Kennedy hired her as the overarching head of story group, and her prime directive, or her own want, I don't know which one, was to insert as much social politics into it. And you'd say, well, that doesn't make sense, Dash. But Kathleen Kennedy, I'm going to give her credit and say, if there's so much push for social agenda, so much push for more females in leadership positions, and Kathleen Kennedy's basically going to hire the people herself. She, remember in the magazine where she famously said 50% of the people there were now female? Great. The problem was, going back to what my first statement is that it doesn't matter about sex. It matters about credits and if you
It doesn't matter if what your gender is. It matters how much you know about Star Wars.
Right,
and how good you are at putting this together.
Any job that you're in, as long as you have the credits to your name and you have what it takes to do the job. Unfortunately, hiring people whose first agenda was social politics and not have any type of knowledge of the Star Wars universe and just going to wishy-washy annex in some type of Disney vision. What you got was a hodgepodge of content, and a lot of the good stuff. Rogue One was literally the story of Dark Forces, just switched Jan Ors to Jyn Erso and kicked out Kyle Katarn, who's an amazing character, written by Gary Whitta, who used to write for PC Magazine, and he reviewed Dark Forces. He just took the shell of the story. So imagine all these people going to Kathleen Kennedy going, I think I've got a really good Star Wars story. It's been done before, and her going, tick, 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 does it pass my social check first? Clearly, people don't give a shit about the social aspect of things. Star Wars is always going to be intertwined with social politics in some way. Like George Lucas clearly wrote them with a higher message, but that should be folded in to the background, the deeper subconscious that just kind of makes you think versus hits you over the head with it. So instead of focusing on what I said before, which is the writing and execution and content, Kathleen Kennedy doesn't seem to have a broader vision, or at least the people who are executing on the property don't. And it has just been a disastrous, a bit of a dumpster fire. But so you've already got a bad foundation, but just is more of an FU to the fans. They have the gall to say, by the way, quite smugly, we are right with our politics and you need to be spoon-fed them like the monkeys you are. And we're just what? Just make Star Wars. Stop trying to do this. And I think that JJ did pull back to his credit on Rise of Skywalker. There were a couple of moments, but realistically, it wasn't at the forefront of my mind.
I felt the lesbian kiss was... Let me talk about the lesbian kiss, all right? Look.
Let's talk about it. Usually I'd be excited for this conversation.
Well, we are excited. I am excited because I'll tell you why. So the issue with the lesbian kiss, and I've had this debate before with my LGBT friends, is... when Disney tries to shoehorn any kind of LGBT representation, it doesn't come off genuine. It comes off more often than not as pandering to a demographic. People have complained about where they want more gay characters, more minorities in their movies. And then what Disney does is they kind of pat you on the head and say, okay, we'll give you something. We'll give you a lesbian kiss in the background of a scene that I did not even see until the third time I watched the movie. I completely missed it the first two times, and I knew it was coming because we had heard the leaks. I knew there was lesbian kiss in the movie. JJ even confirmed it himself, and it's like you don't even see it. And they even cut away before the kiss is even passionate. None of the main characters are LGBT. None of the directors are LGBT. It's mind-blowing to me because I feel like if you really want to do something right, hire some LGBT writers, directors, producers, and then have them make films with their experiences being LGBT. That way it's more genuine. Shoehorning in a lesbian kiss just felt like it was so corporate. It just felt so shallow. And I'm not sure if that was Abrams' call or Disney's call. We don't know. We're not ever going to know that. And maybe we will. We probably won't know that. But it came off like, we're inserting our own little politics into the film. But luckily it wasn't enough to hurt the movie, I don't think. I think it was just a nitpick. But with Last Jedi, it was just the whole Holdo character came off like she was borderline sexist in some ways. And I know people don't want to talk about this a lot or they don't understand it, but that's how it came off. And I like Laura Dern. She's good in a lot of movies. She's a good actress.
Jurassic Park.
She's been good in that movie.
Yeah, but she was a total fuckwit in The Last Jedi. She's just written as that, as a character.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is the Lucasfilm Story Group has been a complete fucking mess because of this lack of direction. Because if you read the Leia novel, Holdo and Leia behave totally different. If you read the novel before Rise of Skywalker, Finn, Poe, and Rey are totally different than they are in the movie. And that's the issue here. You and I talked about this, how they try to thread things, but the way they thread things, like, because every director has a different vision, the Lucasfilm Story Group has to go back and change shit. Case in point, let's talk about right now, Snoke. In the novelization for Force Awakens, written by Alan Dean Foster, who wrote the first ever Star Wars book, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, in that book, Supreme Leader Snoke says, I have existed before and witnessed the Empire rise and fall. If he's a fucking clone, and we found that out now, how could he have possibly been around before Palpatine took control? That's bullshit. Then the fact that Andy Serkis comes out and says Snoke is more powerful than Palpatine and Vader. Bullshit. We had this plan the entire time. My ass. Lick my ass, bro. And then we have other stuff like, obviously the original narrative was when Kylo Ren turned on Luke, he killed the Jedi trainees and took some with him to perform the Knights of Ren. No, we just found out that it was Palpatine that killed them by shooting Force lightning across the galaxy. So it's constantly being retconned. We're getting retcons on top of retcons on top of retcons. And don't sit here and tell me it's a secret reveal. Because most of this shit wasn't even like hinted or foreshadowed. And it's such a complete mess. And what pisses me off is when they bought this thing from George Lucas, they said, we're decanonizing everything. It's all legends except for the 2 TV shows from Filoni and the 6 movies and the stuff we're going to do from now on. I was like, okay, fine. They're going to make everything make sense. Let me get reinvested again. Because the reality is, Dash, the EU, a lot of shit doesn't really make that much sense. There's a lot, it's everywhere.
But that's the beauty of it. That is because they made so much. It's like the real universe. Everything is literally happened. So there's just as much bad as good. But because they made such a plethora of content, that you happened upon some of the greatest shit. But Disney are pussies. They made like 2 video games since they've taken over. They just won't make content versus the EU.
Well, with the EU, there was a lot of content, but it wasn't all great. That's the reality. It was not all great, and it didn't all work. But when Disney bought it, we were all thinking, okay, and remember those days? We were all thinking, okay, they're going to reboot everything. They're going to take some ideas from it. It could work. And what wound up happening is you had created more plot holes. Like, how do you buy Star Wars and not at least have the synergy to avoid plot holes? And they actually made more plot holes that contradict with not just the original films, but also the movies they're making now. And so I can't even get invested, Dash, into any of the books because the books change depending on what fucking the directors think. So like for Last Jedi, right? The Last Jedi completely ignores the fact that Rey and Poe met at the end of Force Awakens, and they even had a conversation, I think, in the Force Awakens novel. I think they did. I could be wrong. Totally ignored that. Totally ignored the fact that Snoke said that he's older than the Empire and all that shit, whatever. And I think even JJ said that he was older than the Empire and that he wasn't a Sith. Whatever. Oh, it was a misdirection. No, it was no plan. Right? So I'm getting invested in these books. Then all of a sudden the next director comes in and says, well, you know what? Let's change that. So I can't even get invested in the extra shit like I used to because it doesn't matter. Why would you put out a Phasma book and tell this great story about Phasma being this great, alpha female, and then kill her off in Last Jedi like nothing? Like, it's mind-blowing to me as to how... It's like, I hate to say it, bro, but it's like modern wrestling. Like, it's like modern WWE. Like, they just drop storylines and make new ones, and you can't even follow it and get invested because they're going to spit in your face anyways if you do. They're going to change it, and it's not going to make any sense.
I agree. Retcon power is huge. Phasma novel was actually really great. It actually hurt a lot more to see The Last Jedi after reading that novel because it's like, God damn, Phasma was really good in the novelization. Again, it's a power vacuum at Disney. That's the only way that could be created. I have to disagree, though. I did like that the expanded universe did have bad content because they tried everything. I'd rather have 10 great pieces of content and, 20 bad than just 3 pieces of okay to shit content because they're too
I agree with you. No, I totally agree with you. And you know what? The post Return of the Jedi stuff from the EU, I think, is way better than these last 3 movies, in my opinion.
It's great. Some of it, I actually feel bad for people who haven't experienced it, and because it's not mainstream, probably never will, because of how profound a lot of that content is. It's insane. So back to your overarching point, yeah, the sequel trilogy really shouldn't exist, and so for them to shoehorn it in by negating or making impotent the storyline of the other two, the original trilogy and prequels, was a massive mistake. But I feel like JJ was boxed into a corner. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Rian Johnson was a flip of the coin of either going to be a hero or a villain. Like with Infinity War, with Thanos, you know, obviously being the hero's journey for Thanos, and the Russos doing that masterfully. What Rian Johnson did on paper was smart. He literally took expectations of the hero's journey and then just misdirected each one. And either people were just going to be like, I can't believe he did that, or there's a reason that there's a formula for storytelling, because people hated it. They were like, bruh, what have you done?
Well, the problem was, Dash, that he did not understand the 40 years of equity that Luke Skywalker had with people. And even though, because he's made good movies, he's a good filmmaker, he's made good movies, but the reality
you just love Knives Out. You got to tell the people how much you love that movie.
I do love that movie. Knives Out is incredible. It's one of my favorite movies of the year, and he's made other good movies too. And that's why I don't hate the guy. But the problem was that he did not understand. I know what he was going for, deconstructing Luke Skywalker. I get it. But he didn't understand how much Luke meant to people. And Mark Hamill himself, who has more, in my opinion, way more importance to this franchise than Rian Johnson ever will, because he is Luke Skywalker. He's the original hero of this entire thing. He warned him, I disagree what you're doing with my character, and Rian Johnson didn't listen. Well, you know, it's my script, or whatever the fuck he said to him. And it's like, dude, like, Luke is telling you fucked up. And I feel like Rian Johnson, if he did his own, like, standalone Star Wars movie, like, you know, like a Rogue One or something like that, would have probably been fine. When the fact that he did the middle of a 3-part story, that was a mistake. And obviously he took it because when somebody comes to Rian Johnson, I mean, if you're a director and Disney says we're going to pay you X amount of millions to make the second Star Wars movie in the sequel trilogy, you're going to say yes. So of course he's going to say yes. But it just became a mess. And I'll be honest with you, Dash, real shit, I feel like Colin Trevorrow would have been as bad. I think it was good that JJ came back, because Trevorrow, dude, he's not that talented. I'm sorry. In my opinion, he's not that good of a storyteller. Just saying.
I think that you hit the nail on the head. There is a lot to do with the talent. You get what you pay for. And The Mandalorian, as good as it is, which is a great example, is inconsistent as fuck. Like, it really is hit and miss. Some of it's fantastic. Some of it misses the mark. And you'll notice a lot of it is on the talent of the writer, the director, but also the cast of actors. You see, like, Nick Nolte, who plays Guiel, the Argonaut, is phenomenal, straight fire. Carl Weathers, you know, is also...
Oh, he's great.
All of them, all of the OGs that step in that are just great actors, hit it out the park. And then you have people who aren't as, you know, good, or the younger actors, or just people who seem like set dressing for the movies, and they really drag it down. I'm thinking of that lady who nursed Baby Yoda for a minute in that episode, or even the young buck who was trying to become a bounty hunter. They were just not, they didn't have the chops. And so I think that Marvel's strongest asset was its casting director, outside of, so let's say, Kevin Feige for the overarching vision. Then you've got the directors. Then you got that casting director. I forget her name. She was just lauded by everybody. People were talking about giving an Oscar for casting directors, because she chose all of the heroes, you know, from Chris Evans as Cap. And
think about that. She made legend. This is legendary right here. But I'm sorry.
Legendary. And Star Wars,
but at the same time, to play devil's advocate though, Daisy Ridley's talented. Adam Driver is amazing.
Don't agree.
Boyega's good. Oscar Isaac. The actors that Abrams cast in Force Awakens were great actors, bro.
I don't think Daisy is. I remember hearing the rumors about Daisy screwing up on Force Awakens so much that Abrams was getting pissed because her acting was limp. Adam Driver is great. He sells the dark side. He sells his sword fighting. You can really tell.
He's great in everything.
He really is. I think Boyega, I like Boyega, but not in the property. Finn is just a limp character. They kind of just played him out. And same as Poe. Poe, again, but that's when he hit the writing side. Like I said, I think fundamentally, because I'm going to play devil's advocate with myself. I got into Star Wars because of the power fantasy, you know, as a young kid, seeing yourself in Luke Skywalker as a dude who could save people and use a lightsaber and powers, that appealed to me. That's my natural go-to. When I play video games, I want to be a strong dude who can help. But my favorite Star Wars character isn't a dude, which is against what you can project yourself into. My favorite Star Wars character is Kreia, the old lady from KOTOR 2, who's like 90-year-old. I'm pretty sure she's a lesbian who's blind. And like, that's the furthest thing from what I want to be in my life. However, except for the lesbian part. However, she's she is so well written that I love it. It overrides everything. That's where your own personal stuff melts away, and you can really attach. And I feel like fundamentally, it has not only been broken in that aspect of the overarching, the meta story, but also, like I said, the writing has never been there, and it's consistently let the fans down. But I can handle that. And I've said this to you. I can handle if Disney messed up every single Star Wars property, but tried. I said, the one thing that I want them to be as stewards of the fandom, they didn't create it, is to acknowledge we are the caretakers of Star Wars and we humbly serve the fandom. Instead, you have cats like Ryan Johnson going toe-to-toe with people on Twitter, Pablo Hidalgo.
Right.
They diss the fans.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here. You're talking about that for sure.
Well,
ahead, sorry.
I mean, no, I was just going to say that's disgusting to me. That's the one thing. Fans are the ultimate litmus test. They have the right. They're paying to make you didn't create Star Wars. You serve the fans. If the fans say it's bad, that's it. Do not create things divisively on purpose, and certainly don't go outside of the property to attack your fans, because that's disgusting. That's greasy. It's scaly. Unacceptable.
To me, that was the worst part of this whole Disney Star Wars thing, because The Last Jedi really did split the fandom because of the choices made in that film. And when people were coming out with genuine criticisms about the way that Luke Skywalker was written, and again, some people loved it, some people hated it. It was a very polarizing movie, but people had legit criticism saying, okay, look, you wrote this about Luke. This is not the same character Luke is. He's not a coward. Oh, well, he's evolved. No, he's older now. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not Luke Skywalker at all. Age shouldn't have anything to do with it, especially with the kind of power he has now and the fact that he was a coward. The issue is that they made him into a coward. They took one of the greatest heroes of all time, no different than Superman, Batman, all these people, and they made him into a coward. And yes, he is a coward because it's not because he tried to kill his nephew. That's not why he's a coward. He's a coward because he knew that when Kylo Ren left, he knew Snoke was out there, and Kylo Ren, him and Kylo Ren had that disagreement or whatever. He dropped the HUD on him and all, and Kylo Ren disappeared. He knew that his nephew and Snoke were very dangerous for the galaxy, and instead of freaking fighting alongside of his sister and Han Solo and everybody else, he freaking took a powder and ran. That's why he's a coward. That's why. It's not because he tried to kill his nephew. That's part of it. It's because he ran away from the fight. And that's something Luke would never do, especially with how strong he was. He knew that the Sith and the dark side feared him, and he ran away anyways. That's stupid to me. Hurt the character. There were real criticisms about the movie. The editing was weird. And Ryan Johnson and Disney would just sit there and say that the reason why people hate that movie is because, well, they're chauvinistic men. It's like, I'm sure there's probably a small number of chauvinistic men that did complain, but I went to Rotten Tomatoes, Dash, and I read almost every review there. I'll never forget this, and there was maybe 3 or 4 that were actually even remotely sexist out of like hundreds, bro. Luke's character got messed up. Where do we go from here? The whole thing about that movie is it ended and people felt the propaganda with the little broom kid looking up at the skies. They felt the disrespect to Luke Skywalker and to the previous OT characters. People knew what was going on. They felt the nihilism. Dash, that movie is extremely nihilistic. And what Ryan Johnson doesn't understand is that Star Wars has never been about nihilism. It's always been about hope. People are like, well, Luke gave him hope at the end of the movie. no, like that's not, it wasn't executed properly. So that's one thing. But then people had real criticisms. Then Ryan Johnson would fight against them on social media, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And you had these newspaper, or not newspaper, but these website articles coming out about Russian bots are adjusting the rating for the movie and this, that, and the third. Like, it got so fucking stupid. They could not accept the fact they made a bad movie or a polarizing movie. They just couldn't accept it. And I'm sorry, but a lot of the reviewers that saw the movie early, I'm not going to call them shills, but it's always weird when somebody gloats about being at a premiere and shows pictures of themselves with celebrities. I mean, I've done it myself.
That means a shill, dude.
Well,
you see, the problem with the shill is the term. No, but there's a difference.
Well, no, but here's the thing. When I went to go see Dragon Ball Super Broly, I was very happy to be on the red carpet. But one thing I've never done is, suck off Dragon Ball. I love Dragon Ball, but I've never sucked it off to where I can't point out its flaws. These guys saw this movie, and it was like, they treated it, Dash, like it was... Dude, they were saying it was better than Empire. Like, what the fuck? What? You were saying?
No, you're killing me with that last line. That's like straight fire.
They said that. They said it was better than Empire.
That's horror. That's a horror show. Look, those people... There's something called Star Wars overhype. I experienced that. I don't think I liked The Force Awakens as much on further viewings, but the first time I saw it, I was so happy to have Star Wars back. I was in the front row in the worst seat possible, looking up. Like, I got teary-eyed with the Han Ben moment. Like, everything got me. I watched it later and I was like, that was mediocre. But Last Jedi, I knew mid-film, no, not even the first 15 minutes, that was kind of hot garbage for me. Now these people may like it, but the term shill, I think, is apt, because Disney, not only will they not admit any type of wrongdoing or defeat or fault, anything like that, I'm fine with that. You don't have to admit it. Don't blame, and especially don't blame the fans. I've never had anybody
attack the fans.
I've never had anybody DM me or secretly say I hate women, I hate blah blah. Nobody's ever said that. They scapegoat random comments. They could make the accounts themselves for all I know. Like 2-3 comments doesn't mean shit, but they are so happy to do that. And I feel like that's the weakest ethic. But to your point of not understanding Star Wars, I remember when Pablo Hidalgo described Han Solo and said he was playing a tabletop RPG in the 80s, and he was reading about Solo having a heart of gold and how Solo always did. I think fundamentally they don't understand the core of the characters in such a way where, if Han Solo's good later, they think that he's always good. I saw Han Solo as not having a choice, and he was a drug smuggler. Like, Poe admitted that he was a smuggler before, he got into the
Resistance.
Yeah, I nearly said the First Order. And so it's like, no, you can't pretend that you're a drug smuggler with a heart of gold. You're a piece of shit. And the more profound thing is rising above that. Now, the story group...
becoming a better person.
Yeah, but be a piece of shit. Like, that's like new movies are so afraid to really commit to people not being good people or being weak. The same as Rey being written out as being flawless. It's like, no, the flaws are what make people attached to it. But the attacking of the fans that's the part where I just couldn't understand it.
The lying of the fans too, because Pablo Hidalgo, fuck Pablo Hidalgo, bro. I'm just saying, fuck Pablo Hidalgo. And 100%. I'm going to tell you why. We haven't even said anything about this yet. We talked about it privately, but not publicly. Fuck Pablo Hidalgo, and I'm going to tell you why. Besides his fucking pussy-ass passive-aggressive behavior on Twitter, the fact that he has straight up lied. People asked him about the rumor of Rey Palpatine, and he said Palpatine never had any kids, knowing that that was the plan they were going to go with in this movie. Don't fucking lie to the fans, you asshole. If someone asks you a question, ignore it. If you're working for a company and you signed a non-disclosure agreement where you're not supposed to reveal secrets, don't fucking talk about it. If someone asks you, is Rey a Palpatine? I'm not giving away anything. I'm not talking about the movie. Just don't reply. Just don't say anything. Don't say a word about it. But instead he goes and he lies. Then also the Force Dyad story came out that Jason Ward reported. He also said that was bullshit. And it wasn't bullshit. And people called Jason a freaking shill. he's not a shill. I mean, he liked Last Jedi, but he's definitely not a shill, in my opinion.
Yeah, he got shit on so much. He was the bad guy before the sequel trilogy came out to Disney. You know, he was the guy reporting the leaks, and they were like hounding him. But you know, Pablo's like, I've got a weird empathy. I don't like Pablo because of how he talks to fans and how.
And I respect him for being a Star Wars nerd, but
yeah,
dude, you have some etiquette, have some respect. Like I feel like he thinks he's better than other fans, honestly, because he has a job at Lucasfilm. Yeah, well, I feel that way sometimes.
That's how I feel about Lucasfilm in general. I feel all these guys talk down to people. That's why social media is toxic. I'm glad that George Lucas never got into it, because even fans that are well-meaning. Like, I get Pablo. Imagine being Pablo. You're just some dude who clocks in every day. You're doing story work. Then you're a part of the story team. And the head lady that Kathleen Kennedy hired as a friend doesn't know what she's doing. So that gives you more power. And then suddenly you're the front-facing part of Star Wars on Twitter. And then you start talking shit because you don't like people talking to you that way. And suddenly you get a bit of an ego. But same time, like, check yourself. Like, I empathize with him because he had a lot of power. Everybody went to Pablo. I personally never, like, the fans are number one. You're number two in my books if you work in any company, you know, in that regard. And I think that he just let it go to his head. And I was happy that they made him shut down his Star Wars rhetoric on Twitter, because I'd hoped that, you know, little kids were like, excuse me, Pablo, how come, you know, Luke doesn't have skin on his hand when he comes back in The Last Jedi? And like, Pablo's like, well, this is actually because, you know, he'd been on the island and he let himself go. Stuff like that. It turned really topsy-turvy. And a lot of these cats, like you said, Kathleen Kennedy with her Forces Female stuff, Disney in general, the way that they are like other companies.
It just got out of hand, bro.
Other companies do the same thing. Like Blizzard is so...
Well, actually, I was going to tell you this, Dash. This whole, like, attacking the fans thing, this is not a Star Wars thing. This started with Ghostbusters 2016. Remember how Sony would only highlight the sexist comments and would never highlight how this is not funny, doesn't look good, looks like shit. You know, that's their thing, is... Their agenda is to paint people who criticize their work as being sexist, racist, basically demonizing them. And what you're doing is you're demonizing the core audience that's paying money for all your shit. Yes, are they neckbeards? Some of them are. Are they 40-year-old men playing with toys? Some of them are. But they got money, homeboy. They got money that you as a company need. And by attacking the fucking fans, you're making them say, you know what? I don't want to spend my money on Star Wars. I want to buy something else. I want to buy a new book or something. I want to buy another video game. Fuck Star Wars. That's what a lot of people have said after Last Jedi. A lot of people.
I agree. There's 2 points to make that. First is that Hollywood media, being so one-sided, forgets that the world, the world that's a part of a democracy, half of your populace, even in America, is going to be left and then half is right. Shitting on one side or the other makes zero sense, because you live in a democracy where there's both halves of the same whole. So don't do that, number one, you retards. Number two, don't act like you have a social conscience. You know, you talked about the lesbian scene, or let's talk about Beauty and the Beast, Josh Gad. Disney doesn't like anything to do with sexuality in that way, because they always stayed away from it. It's because they don't want to piss off China, the international market. I don't know, but these companies get a conscience when it suits them. So they'll sit there and they'll tell fans, you know, they're sexist or whatever. However, when it comes to things like when they hired Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One for Doctor Strange, they didn't hire a Tibetan man because China was like, fuck Tibet. So what did Disney do? They're like, let's make it a woman and androgynous, which, to their credit, like I said, older actors who are good at their craft. Tilda Swinton was fantastic.
She made it work.
Same as Sir Ben Kingsley as the Mandarin. They wouldn't hire a Chinese man because they thought it would come across as insensitive. He was amazing. The point is, you don't get to fucking tell me how to think, feel, or what my beliefs are bad if you will literally turn heel the moment money seems to drop for you. You don't get to play both sides. You do not have that luxury. And people like Mark Hamill are bad. Like, I unfollowed Mark Hamill personally because, again, these people live in this Hollywood bubble where they think that they can scream down other people and that they're right. It's almost like they literally believe they're right, and therefore, like, there's some type of God force in their side. But I'm like, dude, people have different beliefs to you. Like, I wish that the machine, number one, needs to stop being so political. Number two, obviously, I think the actors, if they could just maybe do that, it's their personal, social media. But I feel like you're inviting unnecessary trouble and also division. Like I said, 50-50 of the populace, like, respect both sides. But these people just are on the attack, and then they cry victim as soon as, like, something bad happens. I'm like, dude, it's so tiresome. Like, all we as the fans are asking for is good content. Everything else is forgivable. Right. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is like, it's so, I mean, because Disney owns it, it's so easy to just kind of compare them and juxtapose the two and say, well, let's look at the contrast here. Star Wars has fatigue. What's that? Marvel's pumping out 3 movies a year? Go fuck yourself.
That's what I'm saying. Marvel is, people keep saying, well, Star Wars is an event movie. It should be once every few years. Yeah, I do see where they're coming from with that. I totally understand where they're coming from with that. Star Wars can still do one movie a year set at different times in the timeline. You know, the past, the future, different parts of the galaxy. Because the galaxy in Star Wars is pretty vast. And yet, all they've done is kind of play it safe, you know. Hey, look, regular media has been great at this. Look, it's an X-wing, it's a stormtrooper, another Death Star, this, that, and the third. It's always something that's derivative of the old trilogy. And as much as I like that for The Force Awakens, at the same time, it's like, I get the course correction, but the whole thing's been a constant course correction. We're going to go left, we're going to go right, we're going to go left, we're going to go right. And it gets really, really, really fucking annoying. And it just, and also the whole lying to the fans thing. I cannot believe that Abrams said that he respects what Rian Johnson did in Last Jedi after watching Rise of Skywalker. Look me in the eyes, motherfucker, and tell me that is true. Also, this idea that they had Palpatine planned from the beginning and that they had all these plans ahead of time. I don't know who could possibly, with a rational mind, think that after watching this trilogy back to back to back. It's one thing to have a story that has twists and turns. It's another thing to make it blatantly obvious, whether you understand filmmaking or you know anything about the behind the scenes process or not, that these movies were made by different people with different visions. Abrams and Rian Johnson are talented in their own ways. They suck in their own ways, depending on what your opinion is of them. But the reality is they've both made good movies. They have a history of making good movies, but they have such completely opposite perspectives on how to tell a story. And I don't know about political views, but definitely opposite as far as Star Wars goes and how to portray characters, that this trilogy just felt like stupid. Dude, you know what it felt like, Dash? It felt like two kids fighting over a toy. Like when you have two kids fighting over a toy, it's my toy, it's your toy, like Toy Story. That's what it felt like. And Kathy Kennedy's supposed to be the babysitter, and she's letting them fight over the toys instead of taking the toy away and saying, hey, behave, take care of the toy. That's pretty much what happened here. And damn, I'm good for making that analogy. I just made that analogy up just now, bro. Now, you've had a lot of threesomes in your life, right? So I said that this sequel trilogy is like having a threesome with two ugly girls. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I think that you should be excited, but you're kind of disturbed midway. And to your point, you know, just to bring back Pablo, throw him under the bus one more time. He was making fun of people. I remember distinctly on Twitter, they were saying Luke Skywalker's kind of been shit on, the OT characters, Leia, Han, disrespected. And he was making fun of them with some unknown blue tick guy who was just all pro sequel trilogy, saying, you know, like they were doing joke memes of like the older cast running around, you know, in the movies and how pathetic it would be to see senior citizens kind of running shit. But the problem was that, you know, number one, respect. Like you said, 40 years of equity is one of the smartest things. Those toys sales $4 billion a year for Lucasfilm for those years wasn't luck. It was because of the equity the characters had. So you've got all these old toys that everyone likes, but they couldn't accept that their writing for their own characters was poor, that they were poorly accepted, that their toys aren't selling, which is an apt thing. You know, like they couldn't give away Rose Tico, unfortunately. And so their egos were so bruised, they just blamed the fans and were like, no, screw you and your old toys. You're just haters. Now, why won't you eat our shit up? And so then they were forced in this spot where they would bring back old characters as nostalgia bait, but be pissed off about it simultaneously. Like, here you go, you assholes. Here's your old toy back. I know that you want it, but it's only because you're a sexist prick and we need your money. And I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? Don't pull us in for a hug, then punch us in the guts. You're right. It was so insane.
Yeah, and to play devil's advocate about one thing, Kelly, those fans that attack Kelly Marie Tran's Instagram are fucking scumbags. Because look, Kelly Marie Tran, right? She signed on to do Star Wars. It was a dream gig. She did the best she could with the material that was given to her, which was complete ass. I'm sorry, but it was ass. Even if you like Last Jedi, you have to admit, most people who like that movie admit that the freaking casino shit was ass, right? And she gets harassed on social media. Do not harass an actor for a creative decision made by a director. That is bullshit. Kelly Marie Tran is not Rose Tico. She's Kelly Marie Tran. And it pissed me off.
I disagree, yes, dude. Respectfully.
You
yeah.
disagree that she got with her getting attacked?
Yeah, 100%.
Please explain to me how you're okay with her getting attacked,
sure,
bro.
Okay. Number one, you've been attacked on Twitter. Instagram, I'm sure.
Hell yeah, I haven't. It's fucking bullshit.
It is bullshit, but it's people's right. Outside of death threats and scumbaggy stuff, so like those things are never okay. But outside of that, getting on social media as a celebrity, getting paid hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, you know what you're signing up for. And I think as adults,
that I agree with you.
I get body blows all the time. You toughen the fuck up. I would say harden up, princess.
I agree with you, but that does not. But Dash, that does not excuse them for bad behavior. No, bro. Well,
here's the number two.
As much as I agree with you,
here's the number two. Okay. I never saw real proof of bad behavior outside of like them dissing her. Like, again, we've all been dissed and it doesn't feel good, but it toughens you up. I think there was media rhetoric to make her out as a victim when, you know,
that could be true.
But it's so easy because you want to jump on a bandwagon. I think she's great. I think that I don't have a problem with her. I don't even care. People are like, oh, she's so much prettier in real life. She's ugly as Rose. I'm like, I don't care if she's ugly as Rose. She's a Star Wars character. She's meant to be dumpy and sour. Like, she was written poorly. That's what I care about. So I don't care about that.
Yeah, it's a bad
But she's
character.
A celebrity. Like, fuck. Like, she's living. Most people live for 2/3 of the world or something live for less than $10 a day. If she's getting called a piece of shit for being Rose Tico, man up. Be happy you're a celebrity. I don't know. Like I said, there's a point where harassment, where I'm against it, where it's like, I'll kill you or I'm going to rape your family. I'll be like, holy fuck, you've got problems. But outside of that, if people are like, you're shit as a character or stop taking selfies.
I see where you're coming from. I am going to disagree with you because I don't think an actor should take shit from fans based on a creative's a vision. In other words, the people who are going after Rian Johnson, that philosophy works if you go after Rian Johnson. Like, if you're going after Rian Johnson, as long as you're not threatening his life or anything, if you're just saying, listen, man, you made a bad movie, you ruined Star Wars and shit for me, that's fine. But Kelly Marie Tran just did the best she could, bro.
I would say it's fine. Like, if I was in a Star Wars movie and people hated my character and they dissed me, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Like, okay. I honestly...
But that's because you and I have tough skin. Maybe she doesn't. You know what I mean? Not everybody's the same,
you sign up for that.
People have...
You want to become a social figure.
I agree.
You toughen the fuck up.
I agree with you.
Or you hire somebody like your talent agency, which most of them do, to actually run your social media. She never has to see the comments. She's got way more money than us, and she's got a team. She's not a victim. I refuse to victimize her because it puts her in a place of less power.
I'm not victimizing her, but I think the fans need to be held accountable for what they do. And unfortunately, those fans that attacked her represent the rest of us. See, when you behave like an asshole on the internet and you treat actors like this who have nothing to do with the creative, you're basically giving them ammunition to then go and make their stupid SJW articles and their stupid fucking, tweets about how the Star Wars fandom is toxic. That's what I'm trying to tell you, bro, is that they're making the rest of us look bad.
But you give somebody a mask of the internet and total anonymity, and you're going to start a fire. Like some dudes, I don't know. Is 4chan the bad one, or is it 9gag? Whatever one everybody blames for being trolls. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't know if it's either one of those ones. I don't I don't go
I
into
have no
it.
idea,
But
honestly.
there's
But I'm
always
just
one
saying
side that they blame. But all I'm saying is that you cannot control that. They could, like, if you have 1 billion comments a minute on the internet and there's 3 bad ones, and then the companies focus on the 3 bad sexist ones and then blame an entire fandom, fuck that company. You know that there is always going to be pushback or some greasy arsehole in the internet. That's the internet. Like, you can't blame an entire fandom. And so they blew it up to these proportions. They demonized it, this boogeyman of these evil fans who are sexist. But it's like, show me them. Show me the numbers. Show me. If there is 1 million dudes who are like, oh, fucking kill Kelly Marie Tran and wear a skin, I'll be like, that's a fucking problem. But if 3 assholes are just like, you're fat, it's the internet. That's what happens.
I mean, I don't think she should be called fat either.
No, I don't, but I'm just saying, like, that's the internet. Everybody gets called a name.
But people need to have a little bit of fucking class, bro. That's pussy shit, bro, because you wouldn't call her that to her face. That's no different than when you and I get shit, bro. They wouldn't tell us that to our face.
Yeah, but that's why I don't care. Because if somebody calls me ugly, fat, stupid, or it's like someone like that, I'm like, number one, you wouldn't say it to my face. Number two, you're a pussy for doing it on the internet. That's more reflective of the person. And anybody who puts content on the internet needs to learn that real quick, or you'll become fucking snack lunch. Like, that's just it.
No, I agree with that. You have to kick back. And I think that for somebody like her who might not have been able to handle it, she definitely should have gotten like a social media manager. I agree with you on that. But what I'm trying to tell you is not about her. It's about us, the way we conduct ourselves as people. I don't give a fuck if it's the internet or not, bro. There's this respect level that I think should not be broken. I've always felt that way.
But people are real life. Nobody talks like that. It's just some 14-year-old scaly motherfucker.
I know.
Who's doing it for a giggle, or they're just trolling because they know they'll get a reaction. That's like, it's just part of the culture. I never come across people who are innately bad in real life, and it makes me put in perspective.
Well, no, a couple times I have.
Well, you know what I mean. But like, let's say the ratio. Most people are good in general.
Right, I agree.
And so the internet, with the anonymity and consequence-free environment, shit is going to go pear-shaped. Maybe I tell myself this constantly because people say a lot of hurtful shit to me, and I just kind of had learned to shrug it off. But I also think it's my responsibility. Like that dude who cried like a bitch in the Star Wars trailer, and everybody was saying like he was a victim. I'm like, number one, if he sent that to
Mike Butts.
If someone sent that to your grandma and they encountered it, hacked his account, and then put it on the internet, I would be like, fuck, I'm sorry.
Did I say Mike Butts? I'm sorry, Eric Butts.
Eric Butts. But I've cried during a Star Wars trailer on stream, and people have made fun of me, and I'm like, yeah, it's the John Williams music, but you have a right to do that. I've put myself out there. When they were victimizing him, like, oh my God, he's such a victim. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. He cried as a grown man over a property, a geek property. Yes, you're going to expect heat. Are you retarded? Like, that's what happens when you put your shit on the internet and you cry as a grown man. Like, he was sobbing. He was ugly crying. And what? People are meant to stand and clap? And half the people, bless them with their empathy, were like clapping and being like, we'll support you. And I'm like, I'm not going to support a dude who just cries. Like, if that's your shtick. And I watched more of his content, and he can fucking do it on command. I swear to God, that's his whole shtick. And I'm like, crying is not a skill. It's not a life skill. Well, maybe if he was an actor.
I think that is kind of a skill, bro. I can't do it on command.
No, but I mean,
like
I'm just saying, like, you shouldn't be praised for being able to cry during trailers. But like, people like want to choose one polarizing thing or another. I'm like, just grow up. Like, fuck, deal with it. If you put your shit on the internet, you're gonna... I've been raped, clearly, not in real life, but on the internet. Like, I think you and I have both had a shit kicked in enough where we just kind of die inside a little bit.
I kick right back, bro. I kick right back. Now, that's all fair, right? But one thing we agree on, you and I, is that Lucasfilm as a whole should be acting more professional against the fans. Even if the fans are attacking you, you should act more professional against them. That we do agree on. Do you think... ultimately, now looking back at the sequel trilogy, and not just that, but other stuff they've done, Rogue One, Solo, do you think that Disney has ruined Star Wars? That's the main topic here. Have they really ruined this thing?
Absolutely.
People said that George Lucas ruined it with the prequels, but now because of Disney's Star Wars, they've forgiven him. So you do think they have? George
Lucas, to his credit, allowed the expanded universe to run, and that was what saved Star Wars for me. I don't think the prequels are the be-all and end-all. I really, like, Attack of the Clones and Last Jedi are kind of on par of how much I don't like them, but Attack of the Clones is more fun. It's kind of lighthearted. But I think that George Lucas ruined the prequels by writing it himself and being more obsessed with technology, but
being more controlling. Yeah, I agree.
But Star Wars as a whole wasn't wrecked because it had so much more room and the expanded universe was expanded exponentially. Disney being safer, killing the expanded universe, more controlling, and yet at the same time creating plot holes which they have to reverse. It has been a clusterfuck of immeasurable magnitude. And if they had, like the expanded universe, just made 100 pieces of content tomorrow and only 10 stuck, I would have been happier with that, because at least then the fans could whittle down what they should focus on and shouldn't. But they're trying to play it safe while also be pissed off at fans for wanting nostalgia because they don't have the chops to top the original trilogy, which is what you effectively have to do if you want to create a new one. You cannot come into this with your dick out and be like, suck it. People are going to be like, romance me first, because I expect a certain level of professionalism. Like, you know, I expect a little something.
That's something that happened to you in real life at one time.
What? It's not going to suck itself? No?
I'm not the one who used that line, bro. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's not going to suck itself. Oh, my God. And guess what? All the fucking shill motherfuckers who do these reviews for The Guardian and for Rotten Tomatoes, they got right in line for that one, didn't they, bro? Because, you know, these guys have to be at the premieres. They have to see the movie early, so they had to suck a little dick to get there, bro. I mean, I'm not all of them, obviously. I'm not insulting all of them, but there's a few who did for sure.
Yeah, you can tell who they are. I mean, you just have to, like, did you call them blue ticks?
I didn't call them that.
Oh,
I didn't make up that
no, that word just...
Blue check marks has been the pop.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's fair, because that's not fair, because I want a fucking blue check mark.
No, I tell you, don't get one, because that's the sign. No, you know what it is? It's like under 1,000 followers. They have in their bio, he/she, them, works at Washington Post. As soon as you see all...
Careful.
I'm not going to be...
Careful now.
No, you see all three of those indicators, and I'm like, okay, this person only has a professional opinion that will be swayed by public discourse. That's all they do.
Yeah, you're talking about politics, essentially. What, right?
No, I'd say writers who are more socially, politically inclined, and therefore they are there to basically please whatever's in vogue. So whether it be Disney, they won't say a bad word about them, or any social justice-y issue. And I'm not saying SJW warriors. What I'm saying is these people just want to stay in the box that is provided and never cause waves, never have an opinion outside of it. Therefore, they can't be trusted. Right. They don't have integrity. Right. And so they're the people. Agreed. They're the people where even if they thought something was shit, they can't physically say it because they they don't have the foundation of a base of people who respect them. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, or they find things that they don't like about something and nitpick it to shit, or inverse it to fuck with the fans. Like Joker,
yeah, I love that. I love that everything bad is good and everything good is bad. Just like these YouTube channels that like make Attack of the Clones is the best Star Wars movie and then just sit back and watch hundreds of thousands of views. They try and defend shit. It's crazy.
No, it's mind blowing, but at the same time, it's like, you know, as far as the blue check mark goes, I want a blue check mark. I deserve one. I think you do too. I think if you're a content creator with an audience, you should get a blue check mark. That's the way I feel. It's my opinion. I don't think a blue check mark should be given out to some of these journalists who have, you know, like I said, 200 followers and they write for a magazine that's antiquated. I don't give a fuck about Forbes. People don't care about Forbes now like they used to do 20 years ago. Nobody cares anymore. So Scott Mendelson saying, and that's the big one, the motherfucker saying that the fans are the reason why Rise of Skywalker sucks. Brother, it's J.J. Abrams, Chris Terrio, Kathy Kennedy, and Rian Johnson as to why that movie sucked. Not because of fucking the fans. And like that dude should not even have a platform. I have nothing personal against him, bro. But he loves to, every 6 months, he'll fucking say, Last Jedi was a great movie. Purposely to start a fight in the comments section. He purposely does it in the replies. Every 6 months. People like that need to go. Like, they need to go. And every time he tweets, I see like 1,000 likes. And it's like, it's not even like, I'm not envious of him because I don't give a fuck about him. But it's like annoying that he's trying to stir shit up and cause problems in the fandom and then gets off on it. You know, and he gets off on this shit.
Does.
It's like,
he's got a punchable face.
But why does he even have a platform? Who the fuck cares about this guy? Who is this fucking guy? Like, he hasn't worked his way up like we have. He hasn't fucking put in hours and hours of time in his videos. Like, maybe he has worked his way up in Forbes, sucking dick and writing stupid articles. But I know I put out some real fucking content with a real opinion. I don't blame fucking the fans. Like, when I do a video, bro, and it doesn't hit, I don't blame the Dragon Ball fans for not watching it. I wish they would watch it, but I'm not going to blame them for not watching it. I'm not going to sit there and passive-aggressively make another video talking about how Dragon Ball fans are assholes or Star Wars fans. That's what these guys do. Right. So fuck them. Right. Like, honestly, fuck them. But you know what? Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was going to say, my personal thing, the epiphany I had, and I think you'll agree with this, is if I made a video tomorrow and it got 50% likes and 50% dislikes, I would say I need to figure out why this video divided my audience. Right. But I would take full responsibility. None would go to the fans. I go, fuck, I need to do better to bring the fans together. They turn around and go, 50% of fans hate the video, this movie. They must be assholes. Like, it's got to be them that's broken.
Right.
I'm like, are you insane? You never, not in a million years would you do that. Neither would I. So it's just so disrespectful. I'm like, you didn't even create Star Wars.
It's also very childish, too, guys, to be real about it. Very childish and immature. So what do you think this company can do going forward? Because the sequel trilogy is a wash. They're never going to remake it. This stupid fucking petition about them remaking Episode 8, that's moronic. They were never going to do that. Carrie Fisher's unfortunately gone. Kenny Baker's gone. You know, we even lost Chewie this year. Like, it's never going to be the same. The opportunity for us to have one more adventure with Luke, Han, and Leia is gone. Unless we're talking about comics or TV shows with dub actors that sound like Carrie Fisher. It's gone. We're never going to get what we wanted. Done. What do you think they should do going forward? What can they do?
It's kind of brutal. I don't actually enjoy saying this part because it is my honest opinion. They need to fire Kathleen Kennedy, Ryan Johnson, anybody, Pablo Hidalgo, everybody who has been quote unquote toxic to fans. Anybody who is adverse to the fandom or has been or is seen as pushing back on the fandom needs to go. They also need to restructure the story group and only focus on the greatest writers from both sides of the fence politically. Nobody with an agenda, but people who are just the raw talent. The Nick Nolte's is Keel on all levels cascading down. So they start with the top and then you just move through each level of Lucasfilm individually. And then they plan out a timeline for much more content, starting with video games and other ancillary content, because I'm fucking sick of 3 video games in 9 years. It's disgusting. But also then obviously working into comics and other properties, but not being afraid to having a shot, to really reaching out. As long as you have the talent in the room, then you should be fine. So I think, fire, then restructure, hire, create, test, and never ever blame the fucking fans again, you idiots.
I think that Kennedy will step down. I think in 2021 her contract is up, she's gone. I think Favreau is already being put in the position to take her spot, or Dave Filoni, in which case I'd be fine with either one of them. Favreau, of course, is not perfect. Lion King was garbage, but that was the paycheck movie. Iron Man 2, not very good, but Iron Man 1 is great. So, I mean, Jon Favreau is the hit or miss guy, but he's mostly hit. So I would definitely put him in there, or somebody like him. I agree with you. I also feel like they need to actually publicly acknowledge that this trilogy, that they had issues here. They need to actually come out, because they love to be squeaky clean and, oh, well, it was so much fun working with this person. Like, they're always smiling in their documentaries. Relevant Media covered this, how everything is so polished and happy. They need to come out and be honest, like, really, and say, look, we fucked up. I would really appreciate it if they said that. If they said, we made a mistake. They're not going to say it, because the movies made money. But because if the movies did make money, then maybe we have a chance of them saying this. But I feel like they're never going to say it. But they need to come out and say, look, we fucked up. We should have never blamed the fans. We had the wrong creator from the beginning. It just wasn't. We had no synergy. We promise we'll do better from now on. We apologize for fucking up your favorite characters. We'll do the best we can to not do it again. And I feel like Rise of Skywalker subconsciously tried to do that with Abrams. I think he really, really tried. I can't even sit here. If I ever meet this guy face to face, I'm going to tell him, I'm going to say, thank you so much for trying. Because I do think he tried. But he didn't know what to do. he didn't have enough time, he couldn't execute, and he's also probably not the right guy to finish off the saga. But he tried, and I want more of that. I want more of them saying, and I don't want cheap fan service. I want like actual like good stories, because Star Wars can be so incredible. As we talked about, the EU has so much good stuff. You know, Legends. You know, not even about the Skywalkers. There's other stories they can tell, and I would definitely love to see them focus more on that. Also, by the way, Kennedy saying that trilogies are hard. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Trilogies are easier because with a trilogy you have more time, you have more space, you have 3 movies, not just one. Get out of here with that shit. Do you remember that comment that she made? It stupid.
She also said there's no source material, and there's like the expanded universe fans just internally
and it's also
died.
bullshit. It's also bullshit because if we're being real, Dash, the sequel trilogy borrows so much from the EU. I mean, we have Snoke clones, like the Palpatine clones. We have, you know, the story of Jason and Jaina Solo essentially playing out, except with slightly different. You know, Kylo Ren. Like, there's so many things they borrowed from the EU for these movies, and it's like, don't fucking lie to us anymore. We see through your bullshit. Like, they lie so much, you get tired of it after a while, bro.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. PR spin is okay. There's a lot of companies that do it okay where they get tongue-in-cheek with it, but I agree. Look, I don't think JJ's a great director at all. I think that he killed Star Trek and then has just done it with Star Wars. Like, he just tries to reboot things poorly. But I don't really care. Like I said, he did try with 9 and he does care, so I'm like, okay, thank you. But I think then again, he said that people who didn't like Leia, which is nobody, were afraid of a strong female character. They all say this retarded. I
don't know anybody who said that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Who are these people that they pull out of their ass? They don't exist. So I think they're very smug in that aspect, and I think that Disney just needs to be more humble. They don't have to hopscotch around, but they just have to be like, if you're an OT fan, right, thank you. Prequel fans, sequel fans, we appreciate you, and here's what we're going to do for each and every one of you, but just know that we wouldn't be here without you. If they did some more humble rhetoric.
They need a Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige connects with the fans. He's like Steve Jobs, the presentation, So we've got for Phase 4 some pretty good stuff. Boom, Captain America this. Boom, that. They need somebody like that who's going to come out and talk to the people, right? At the conventions and say, hey, guys, you love Star Wars, right? Look what we got cooking up. Boom, 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 boom. Not give away, not an entire cinematic universe, but, a plan. Make us think that you have an idea.
Yeah.
Which they didn't have. They didn't have it. Dude, how many fucking directors have they fired and lost and replaced with this guy and that guy? It's been like so much behind the scenes turmoil, dude. Like, stop hiding this, dude. It's bad leadership. So I do agree with you. Yes, I think Disney ruined Star Wars. However, I'm going to say this, Dash. Nothing, absolutely nothing can ruin your childhood unless you had a traumatizing experience happen when you were a kid. That can ruin your childhood. Somebody making a movie now when you're growing up is not going to ruin your childhood, and it's not going to ruin the original trilogy. Nothing can ruin the original trilogy. Yes, they ruined Luke Skywalker, the sequel trilogy. You know what? In my head, that's non-canon. The original 3 films, Star Wars, not A New Hope, Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. That's my 3 fucking movies. They always will be. That's the way I see it. Nothing can ruin your childhood. And if you go around saying that so-and-so ruined my childhood, you're a pussy. Point blank, you are a pussy. Let's grow the fuck up a little bit. Nothing can ruin the original 3 movies. So to me, even though Star Wars as a brand might be ruined, the original Star Wars trilogy can never be ruined. Especially if you have the despecialized, the original cuts. Those, yes, special editions are garbage. The originals, what they were meant to be from day one, to me, can never be fucked with. Do you agree?
I mean, I think that most people would agree with that sentiment. And I think as adults, if you want to be empowered and what can you do, you can, support what you love instead and focus on that and vote with your money and be vocal in a respectful way. And just remember that at the end of the day, you have the power. You are the people paying. And if you don't give them your money, they will end up bowing to you. So never forget that. Be empowered as a consumer, because they try and lie and make you feel small and as if your voice doesn't matter. But in the end of the day, we're all in this together, and I think that you matter a lot more than they want to let you know.
And hopefully they'll eventually, like you said, have some humility, to tell us that. So that's going to do it for this little discussion. We've gone an hour. Any final thoughts, bro, on this topic now with the sequel trilogy being over? And what a fucking disappointment, dude. Oh my God, what a letdown.
I don't have many more final thoughts. It made me step away from the Star Wars theories on Dash Star. I'm actually doing a lot more content talking to the community on Real Dash, my channel, and that's
the sequel trilogy broke you.
Yeah, I know, it broke Dash Star, and I said that in a video. But I'm just more thankful for the community and fans from this, that I have actually made some great friendships from all of this happening. Even you, Danny, I'm very thankful for this. And I've also started a game design course in my own spare time, because I wanted to make my own content that isn't, when you have enough of something, you say no more, you got to roll your sleeves up and create it. And so I'm actually talking to a couple of people about bringing to life some of the best of the expanded universe as well for the masses, because I realized a lot of people may not pick up a book or audiobook anytime soon, but they're missing out. So I wanted to make it in a more palatable way that people could experience it. So stay tuned for that. And I guess if you're feeling alone, I hope you know that you're not, and there's a community with us here.
Yeah, you don't have to be angry and talk shit about Disney every couple of days either, dude, because you know what I mean? That's not also a bad headspace, you know what I mean? Yeah, we can all be let down, but, I hate to say this, but life does go on. And, we did lose Carrie Fisher, which was not Disney's fault. It's just the way things rolled. And it just makes you wonder, what if George, because George could also be blamed, what if he had actually done the sequel trilogy like he originally planned to do it, like, way back? Maybe we wouldn't have this problem. Maybe we have more problems, and we'll never know. But that's just the way life is. It just... Things that you like when you were a kid, when they try to bring it back when you're an adult, usually it fails. But I also feel like it can't take away from the magic of when you were a little kid. And the reality is, the original trilogy are still good movies. And the prequels are also not that bad. They're not great, like... maybe Revenge of the Sith is. They're not, like, great... like classic films, but they're really not like the worst thing ever made. Like, you know what I'm saying? They really aren't. Anyways, that's gonna do it, man. I hope that your game design, situation gets really good. And I thank you so much for being here again, talking about. Oh man, our childhood has been. No, I'm. It's crazy, bro. It's crazy.
No, I appreciate it.
All right, and thanks everybody for listening. Leave a comment down below. Do you think that Disney has ruined Star Wars, or do you think that they can bounce back with new leadership, which I think they're going to try to do anyways? So let us know in the comments, and thank you again, and we'll talk to you next time.